Now, let's talk a little about the internet, which you mentioned before.
I've heard of that.
Now, you tend, in my view of your work, seem to be very isolated. You're not super public about your projects until they're done.
Right.
And then you write a blog post with a quick walkthrough, maybe a video. Is that on purpose? Is that because you're so busy actually making stuff you don't have time to dick around online?
Well, I started this, and to be honest, most of the stuff that I put up on my blog is a ripoff of another guy's work. There's a guy named Mike Iverson who goes by the name Blind Squirrel. And
Sure.
He's been a member of the RPF for a very long time. And Mike has a really great style on his blog. I'm pretty much copying what he does. When he gets done with the project, he has a full project recap and shows the final images. And I basically do the same thing, because I think when somebody goes there and they find this thing, if they can walk through the entire process right there instead of having to go ding, 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 to 8 or 9, 10 blog posts, for a longer project, like my Daft Punk helmets, I broke those up into 3, just because one blog entry would be 1.5 miles long. So, but for the smaller things that don't take quite so much time, I like to kind of summarize it all, because it's like somebody can learn a lot just by seeing the whole start to finish. Most of my projects only take a month and a half anyway, so I'm able to put those into those sorts of write-ups. But when it comes to the progress updates, I post updates on my Flickr and on my Facebook nearly daily when I'm working on things. So at the end of every day, I'll toss something up on Facebook. I'm like, hey, here's what I worked on today. And then I'll do maybe 5 or 10 high-res images with more detail that goes to my Flickr page. So I've got, a Flickr that has 5,000 or 6,000 photos on it, just from all the stuff that I put up there. The blog posts are really truncated because I can only put so much. So at the end of the blog post, it says, if you want more information, here's my Flickr, here's my Facebook, here's my everything.
Smart.
Check it out. For some of the blog posts, I've actually had people that say they subscribe to me on their RSS feeds, but when it comes through, it's just so long they just skip it entirely and don't read it, which kind of sucks. But I mean, I suppose it's the nature of things. I've never really put a huge amount of thought behind what I do and how I do it. It's how it gets done.
And we actually talked about that a little earlier, about how, again, my view of your approach is you're more of the dude who lets the work speak for itself. You don't spend all your time trying to yell from the top of the hilltop how great you are. You just build something and say, here it is, and then you run back to the garage.
Well, I'm not a public figure, I guess. I'm not, like, this with the cameras is about as comfortable as I feel like being. The fact that we're doing this panel at PAX is actually going to put me pretty far out of my element. I'm not terribly comfortable around crowds. I'm not terribly comfortable sitting there and saying, well, I'm the best in the world, in the business, whatever, because I don't think I am. And so for me to come out and say, well, I'm the best that's ever, well, that's not really true now, is it? There's so many people out there that are more talented, that have higher capacity, that can do things faster. And if I can just put my stuff out there and it can speak for me, I would prefer that. A lot of that probably comes from, to get really deep into things, probably from my dad, because my dad was always talking about, he worked in sales and marketing, so he was big into saying, let the work speak for you. When you get done with something, if it's truly impressive, people will recognize it. If it's not, then you just need to work harder.
Interesting. I really appreciate that strategy. Actually, one of my common laments about online communities is you have all these people that do so much time contributing nothing but their opinion.
Yeah.
Like if they're not out building something, they're just online talking about whatever.
Well, there's a place for that, I think, and there's a lot of that goes in the RPF. And there's a lot of people who will throw out a lot of opinions on things, and depending on who it's coming from, I think that it's very valid. But there's a lot of people, my friend Kathy, Catherine Jones, God Save the Queen Fashions, Kathy likes to call them keyboard customers. And so what they'll do is they'll just sit there and they will critique the hell out of everything, but they will never actually do anything.
Right.
So these people have gotten to the point where they are saying, well, this is wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong. But they've never done anything to kind of contribute or help or support the community, and it's, there's some people that just want to pick things apart.
That seems to be very prevalent in the hobby. There seems to be a lot of people who, what they bring is telling you how much your work sucks.
Yeah, well, and I have to, I'm very thankful to have my wife, because whenever I check my Facebook page and I've posted something and there's a dozen positive comments and there's 2 negative comments, for some reason I always focus on the negative ones.
Right.
So there's all these people that are like, hey, this is great, this is fantastic, very well done, and 2 people are like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Who said that?
I don't know for certain. I don't know. Like people have gotten very critical about certain things, and I don't think anybody's gone to that length of hyperbole. But And I get kind of fixated on that, and she'll pull me back and go like, look, you got to look at this as a numbers game. You know, don't fixate on the two people who are just there to make their opinions known and kind of bring you down without any real, genuine constructive criticism, because I do appreciate genuine constructive criticism when it's relevant to the work. And I think that the problem is the negative comments sometimes seem a lot more vocal than the positive ones.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we can, you and I can go through a thread on the RPF where there's fantastic work, and then one guy can just decide to derail the whole thing, and then everybody yells at him, and then it's a fighting match, and it all goes downhill.
Right. Very common.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate side of the online communities. I think that there are a lot more positive things on there than negative. It's just for some reason we tend to look at the negative ones a little bit longer.
Yeah.